When India first articulated its Look East policy in 1992, the idea was simple. Southeast Asia was growing fast and India wanted in. Inspired by the rapid economic transformation of the Asian tigers, Hong Kong, Singapore, Taiwan and South Korea, and the next wave of tigers like Malaysia and Thailand, India sought to pivot eastward, forging trade, diplomatic and cultural ties with the region it had long overlooked. Engagement with countries like Singapore and Japan took off early on. But it wasn't until Prime Minister Narendra Modi rebranded the Look East policy as the Act East policy in 2014 that the gears truly began shifting. So how far has India's Act East policy come? How has Prime Minister Modi propelled this shift and how is it being deepened? This is Shubhangi Sharma. You're watching Finepoint. Let's dive in. The difference between Look East and Act East wasn't just semantics. It marked a shift in urgency, ambition, and outreach. It also wasn't just about economic cooperation anymore, but security and defense too. Prime Minister Modi's version of the policy was sharper, more strategic, and unmistakably assertive. Over the last decade, India has gone from a cautious observer to an active participant in Southeast Asia's economic, security, and geopolitical framework, and this is where the real Act East game is being played. Modi's just concluded visit to Thailand for the BIMSTEC summit is a timely reminder of how far this policy has come. There, India elevated its relationship with Thailand to a strategic partnership and announced the establishment of a strategic dialogue between their security agencies. This signaled a new chapter in India's security cooperation with a country it had long underlooked. Despite Thailand being India's eastern neighbor and Southeast Asia's second largest economy, it had not received its due space in Delhi's strategic vision until now. The Prime Minister also made sure to state that India supports ASEAN centrality and the need for a free and open Indo-Pacific. So Prime Minister Modi's visit to Thailand for the BIMSTEC summit completely put India's Act East policy in the spotlight. By drawing on the shared Hindu-Buddhist heritage of both nations, Prime Minister Modi effectively used cultural diplomacy to deepen ties. A key outcome of BIMSTEC was the Maritime Transport Agreement, which paves the way for India's northeast to access the Bay of Bengal via Southeast Asia. The India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway further underscores the progress of the Act East initiative. And in fact, the gains from the Act East policy contradict recent remarks made by Bangladesh's Mohammed Yunus on Northeast India having no access to the sea and Bangladesh being the, and I quote, only garden of the ocean. The scale of India's eastward engagement since 2014 has been staggering. Modi has made 3 visits each to Singapore and Indonesia, forging fintech, technology, and maritime partnerships. His 2017 trip to the Philippines was the first by an Indian Prime Minister in 36 years. In 2018, Prime Minister Modi invited all 10 ASEAN leaders as chief guests for India's Republic Day celebrations. This was an unprecedented diplomatic move, marking 25 years of India-ASEAN dialogue. In 2024, Prime Minister Modi made history again by becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Brunei. This year, Indonesia's president was the chief guest at India's Republic Day. Prime Minister Modi's engagements with these countries have translated into real outcomes. India's trade with ASEAN nearly doubled from $71 billion in 2016 to over $130 billion in 2024. ASEAN is now India's 4th largest trading partner, and India is ASEAN's 7th largest. Infrastructure too has kept pace. The India-Myanmar-Thailand trilateral highway and the Kaladan multimodal transport project are game changers for India's northeast, which is landlocked but in the process of finally being linked to Southeast Asia via roads, waterways, and ports. Meanwhile, security has emerged as a core pillar of Act East. India's sale of BrahMos missiles to the Philippines marked its entry into the regional arms market. Vietnam and Indonesia are close to signing their own deals for the BrahMos. Meanwhile, defense and logistics agreements with Vietnam and joint naval exercises have deepened India's Indo-Pacific security footprint. The 2023 India-ASEAN Maritime Exercise was a significant milestone conducted in the contested waters of the South China Sea. And also the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, which was launched by Prime Minister Modi in 2019, and it completely complements ASEAN's own vision and offers a framework for regional maritime stability, freedom of navigation, and domain awareness. This strategic push is also about balance, especially in the context of China's growing assertiveness. Whether it's tackling grey zone threats, protecting sea lanes, or boosting deterrence, India has emerged as a reliable security partner in the South China Sea. Participation in the Quad alongside the US, Japan, and Australia also has been reinforcing India's Indo-Pacific credentials. Quiet conversations about expanding this into a second squad involving the Philippines and the South China Sea and other like-minded nations suggest a growing demand for India's presence in the region. Meanwhile, technology and digital diplomacy are becoming newer pillars of the policy. Agreements with Singapore and Malaysia on semiconductors, digital public infrastructure, and fintech signal a pivot towards next-gen partnerships. India's digital public infrastructure model is gaining traction as a blueprint for inclusive digital growth, backed by initiatives like the India-ASEAN Digital Fund. Meanwhile, the Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation Program has been quietly playing an impactful role in capacity building across Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Challenges remain even as things take off with the East. India's trade deficit with ASEAN is still wide. The free trade deal signed with ASEAN back in 2009 has not favored India in the way that it wished. And while trade grew, the trade deficit has ballooned to $44 billion. With imports growing faster than exports, it's a crucial task for the Act East policy to deliver on the economic front. While goods trade has grown, India must aggressively push services exports, IT, fintech, education to bridge this gap. Meanwhile, connectivity projects also have been facing delays, and bureaucracy often hampers the implementation. Moreover, while strategic outreach has widened beyond Singapore and Vietnam to include Brunei and the Philippines, countries like Thailand are now just getting the attention they deserve. What's different today is the clarity of vision. India is no longer just responding to global shifts, it is helping shape them. So as the Indo-Pacific becomes the new center of gravity, Act East has evolved from a diplomatic slogan into a strategic necessity. And as Prime Minister Modi's recent outreach to Thailand and BIMSTEC leaders shows, India's eastward push is not just about trade or transport, it's about trust, technology, and long-term stability.